Alright, what's up guys? HK Riders here, and I wanted to make an update. So I made a thread about a few days ago titled Sub-Zero's Corner Game, and it involved the 113 into the instant air clone, the jump up clone, and you know, it had a lot of uses, was pretty effective with the mix-up at least, but the issue was 113 is tech rollable, and a lot of wake-ups really destroyed that setup, making it almost inviable in high level. So naturally, I went back to the lab, looked at some stuff, and I managed to create an updated
Sub-Zero
version of this. So for this, I'll just pick Cheetah. I don't know why, but Cheetah's hitbox is very good against, for this setup, I mean. Alright, so take her to the corner, and okay, so 113 was a tech rollable knockdown, and it wasn't really much useful, but back 1-1 down 3 isn't. And at first, back 1 down 3 seems to leave you about at this range, a little bit far. So if you do instant air clone, it wouldn't reach anything. So you didn't have like a mix-up. People could just block you all day. But back 1-1 down 3 allows you to jump forward slightly and do an instant air clone off a jump forward. So like this. And now you see the clone is way closer to her than it was before. And this allows for his mix-ups. There's that overhead. Wait. Oh. Sorry. Oops. And there's the low. So this alone just sends this setup miles ahead of the last one, because back 1-1 down 3 is a completely safe clone setup. Nobody can wake up and punish you for this. Nobody in the game. I mean, Firestorm has an A-frame wake up that always ignores the clone until you block it. That always just goes past the clone. And I've tested this on Firestorm, and if you do the clone instant enough, you can block Firestorm's wake up. But then again, Firestorm is only one character, and you can find, a lot of other characters have slower wake ups than 8 frames, so those are much easier. But this setup is very good. The only issue, the drawback of the setup, that rather than the last one, is for the last setup, around 90, most of the males, almost all of the males, and some of the females, like Cheetah, were able to be frozen by just the regular overhead hammer. But now with this setup, the clone, you don't notice it, but the clone is slightly back, so you need the EX version to freeze it into it. Obviously this is not always 100%. I've frozen some characters meterlessly, and Darkseid, for example, if you manage to just do the setup on Darkseid, it'll work meterlessly always. So that's pretty good. Some of the big body characters do get frozen. Probably Atrocitus too, I haven't tested it yet. But yeah, this setup is pretty good, and pretty viable, I can see this being used at a high level consistently. It just takes a little bit of execution to get the instant air clone and the jump forward right, because if you keep messing it up, then Sub-Zero will always jump over them, so you lose your corner positioning, which sucks. You don't want that as Sub-Zero. But if you manage to get it down, I think this is great. Okay, so I wanted to talk about some issues regarding this setup. First and foremost, the biggest issue, literally, Gorilla Grodd. Usually, I have known Sub-Zero as having issues with females and not usually with big body characters. Big body characters are always easy. They're easy to deal with, and with the clone, because the clone will freeze them normally. But since Grodd is so big that the instant air clone has a really hard time coming out against him. So I mean, you have to do it like that. You have to do it at a specific timing. If you're in a normal match, it's annoying. And the other issue is Grodd will never get frozen by the overhead hammer, EX or otherwise. He'll always break it. So this already sucks pretty hard. I mean, the low still works, you know, so you can still abuse him with it. But if he manages to block it, there's no clone there, so he'll just full combo punish you. And getting this to work, I don't know. The 113 works because if you put the clone high enough, Grodd will get frozen by the normal overhead. But for this one, you really can't because you're not neutral jumping, you're forward jumping, so you can't just wait till it's high enough because it won't work after a certain height. So yeah, against Grodd, I mean, in other aspects of the matchup, I'm sure Sub-Zero does fine in, but you can't really enforce this corner game against Grodd. And of course, you know, as usual, females are always a little bit iffy. I haven't tested this out against Canary yet. I've tested it against Catwoman, and it does work. You know, it's okay, it's fine. But usually females have a hard time, except for some of them, like Cheetah and Ivy. I feel like they have great hitboxes that don't really mess with the clone. So yeah, I mean, Canary. And freezing Canary is so hard. There it is. So yeah, you need to have it around like when you jump like right there or around this spot after a knockdown, and I think we'll be okay. Another issue with this is getting in from a juggle. So if you manage to catch an EX Ice Ball, I mean, if you want to get the setup, and if you don't want to deal with inconsistencies, then this is your best bet. I mean, 366. Yeah, it's Black Canary, so it's the damage number is higher. But you know, if you want the perfect setup and you know that mix up, because you do get a good reset off of this if you guess right. You know, good damage. But other than that, if you try to do it off a juggle, it gets way more inconsistent than it already was. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty annoying. That's one thing I actually want the Sub-Zero community to lab on. So basically, I'm giving you guys homework. I want to find a good ender. I want to find a good juggle that sets up the perfect height so that Sub-Zero can do the clone and not have to deal with the inconsistency that comes with it. I mean, obviously she can't, so that's fine. You know, she can still get this numerous ways. You know, he could just do the ice ball into the back 1-1 down 3, or if he gets a random hit, which is this is the best part, he can always just restand you. And will always come back. So those are the two practical uses of it. If you do find a juggle in the future that sets this up perfectly, I feel like his corner game is going to be so much better, and we wouldn't have to deal with, you know, wake ups and tech rolls anymore, because we now have a hard knockdown setup that sets up his mix up. And yeah, I think he might have just got a little bit better. Thank you guys for watching, and hope you enjoyed. Peace.